Okay, welcome to Garibaldi's Garage. For starters, in this episode, we have a Skyline, 1990 Skyline GTR. I've had it for a couple years, done some mods on it, not a whole lot. But today's mod will be, I'm going to put some ice blue LEDs in the dash, the instrument cluster in the center, and also the climate controls. And I'm going to do a little bit of a twist possibly. Driving around in the sun, it's hard to see the dash, so I really want all those lights to come on with the ignition instead of just when the headlights come on. And the climate control, that doesn't come on at all with the headlights. That only comes on when you actually push a button. And that's even harder to see at night. So I'm going to try to make that come on with the ignition as well. Some other cars in the fleet here. Let's see. You can see the GSX over there. That is my son's Eclipse GSX 97. We're gonna be doing some mods on the front bumper, smoothing out, repainting it, new headlights. Other than that, it's got turbo upgrade exhaust, Recaro seats and things, but that one's pretty cool. The one up here, which you probably can or can't see too easily, let's see. This is a Supra Mark IV, twin turbo, except automatic. And that one will be probably a full restoration. That'll be done later. Maybe in a couple months I'll start that one. This is a project I did about 4 years ago. My wife's Carmen Ghia convertible. It's got a 2110 fuel injection by CB Performance, full suspension, everything, sound system. Did all the bodywork, paint, and everything in there. And this is our daily driver, just an IS350. And this is kind of like a paint booth. So what happens is you can slide that door shut right there and close it off. There's some filters down at the end that suck air through. You can see the filters there that suck through. You can see all the paint on the walls. Been doing it about 15 years, just painting cars off and on. And then there's a fan there, and there's Diesel. This is kind of walks into his own doggy house down there. But for today, we're going to be, like I said, doing the Skyline. So let's get into that. What I have for the ice blue LEDs are those T3s, the T5s, and the T10s. And those hopefully will be all I'll need for everything. Of course, you buy more than you need anywhere. All right, so we're going to start out by getting everything apart. You have to drop this steering column down with these levers so they're kind of stiff as far as it'll go, and then start taking everything off. Okay, so on the gauge cluster, there's buttons on both sides. Squeeze them both in, comes off. And then here's the bulbs in the back. I'll have to figure out how I'm going to wire up the lighting though, which one's ignition power, and rotate it over to to the dash lights, so we'll have to figure that part out. But for now, that's out. And next is to take this out. Okay, we're going to start with the gauge cluster. And I need to find out which of these wires is ignition on and which one is headlights on. So I know how to rewire that so that they'll come on with the lights will come on with the ignition. Okay, so this is the one. It's right here in the corner. Once oh, you know what? I didn't have my ground in right there. Let's try that again to make sure. Make sure I got this first. Yep. This side, no. That's a very depleted. That's a 2.3 volts. Okay. So 2.3 volts is coming out of the yellow with red stripe. So that must be coming from something else. But this one is definitely ignition on. Now, turn the headlights on. Let's see where that comes from. So the headlight power is this one right here, this red one. And ignition is this green. So because I want my lights to come on, like gauge lights to come on with the ignition, I'm going to cut this one here. This wire I'll seal off where the power is coming down from the headlights, the headlight switch. Take this one and connect it into this one, so this ignition power here will feed both of those. So that's what I'll do first, and then I'll test it just to make sure. So what you do is here are the T5s, T5 LEDs. Now with LEDs, they can only go in one direction, positive, negative. So if you get them backwards, they won't turn on. You just flip them over and they'll turn on. So those are the T5s right there. I've already put a T5 into the holder, and the holder goes right back in here. So these, I mean, this is really a quick job to do. And then let's do the other two. Okay, so now let's get this going. There it is. Okay, so these two go together with the green one, and that should take care of that gauge. Let's get that going. Okay. Shrink tube. Gotta use shrink tube, gotta solder. That's all I ever do, because I think it's the best thing ever, and you don't have any problems later on. So I'll put some shrink tube down this one, and it's always a tough one. A lot of times you forget the shrink tube. At least I do. And then you gotta go back and do it all again. Okay, now that's all soldered up. The new LED bulbs are in. Don't know if they're incorrect, but we'll see. Okay, so after flipping the LEDs around, look at that. Ooh, ice blue. And it's hooked up to the ignition. So key out, key in, turn it on, those come on. The headlights don't make a difference. Yeah, headlights don't make a difference. It's just the ignition on, which is what I wanted, just like that. So that's one down. Now I got to work on the other one. So I got ahead of you guys, just because I was trying to figure it out myself. But what I ended up doing was here's the controls for climate. So on the back here, there's 4 bulbs back here, 2 bulbs down here for all of the different options. Problem is, when you undo them, they don't want to fall out, so you have to push them from this side. To get to this side, On the front of your panel, there'll be 3 Phillips head screws. Nothing on this corner. So just these 3. Take those 3 off. Gently pry off the front cover, and it's all good to go. Put that one back in there so I know where it is. So now you get back here, and you should be able to start to push these out after you give them a half a turn. And they fall out, little tiny guys. So you can see they're very tiny. And these are the T3s. Again, they have blue on the end, but let me grab some T3 bulbs. Even though there's blue on the end, there's still nothing, when it lights up, it doesn't light up blue at all. So, alright, let me get the rest of these out though beforehand. It starts to get kind of burnt in here because these things put out heat. These don't put out as much. You'll see it when I do the other cluster. These things put out some heat, and the LEDs don't. Besides the fact that they're really bright and good and everything else. So, you can hear my battery charger in the background, keeping the Skyline charged up. Playing with lights and everything, and plus it's winter time here in Colorado, so I don't drive my Skyline a whole lot, even on nice days, just because there's a lot of just crap on the road, rocks, sand, all that stuff they put down on the road, so I don't always do that, drive it a whole lot in the winter, but I do occasionally. So now I have them all in. I'm actually going to go in the car and test it, so I know if I have to flip them around before I put all this back together. So let me go do that. I'll be right back. I plugged it in. These two down here on the right lit up, and the top one. So the rest of them are off. So what percentage? Geez, there's only 6. Wait, 6? Oh, 50%. That's about right. Alright, let me make sure I get the right ones here. Now, I'm going to go try this. Okay, so all the bulbs work now. I'm trying to see, what are those? Those are all lamps. I'm trying to figure out what these might be. Can't remember what they are on the front. Let's see. Oh, those are the green lights, I think. Or the amber and green for the defrost and that. Okay, those are okay. So now to put this back on, you drop it back on top, click it in, make sure it seats good. All the way around, it's seated. And then start putting screws back in. Yeah, you can see mine's got a little crack going through it. You know, this plastic back in the 90s wasn't the greatest, so yeah, be careful when you're working with it. Oh, there goes something else falling off to recirculate again. Probably. Let's see. Get back on there. There we go. They all feel good. Now the next thing is to make all the lights come on with ignition, not the actual selecting of the turning on the unit. So that's next. Okay, so some things I learned while the camera was getting recharged is on the climate control module, the wire that the lead that comes from the headlight switch that feeds power to the blue LEDs also dims the screen right here. So there's something going on that if you use the ignition wire off of this module and connect it straight to that, it acts funny. I don't know why. It must be something inside, because this module starts flashing and fan kicks on and all kinds of weird things start going on with it. So I disconnected it, but what I did do is I ran a lead off of the wire here in the corner of the small connector. That is the lead that feeds power to the lighting, and I ran it to the gauge ignition wire over here, and it works just fine. So you can do it that way. I did some more thinking and decided, you know, I'm not going to do that on this particular unit. I did on the gauge, so I'm going to do it up here. I figured that the lights are already so dim, the LEDs are only T3s, and so I wouldn't see them during the day anyway, but I would always be dimmed. This screen, the LED screen with the climate control, would always be dimmed because it thinks the headlights are on. So I'm just not going to do that, and I'm going to hook it back up, but the way it was, and so that these will come on with the headlights, and then put it all back together. You don't want to see that. I'm sure it's just a reverse of taking it apart. And then next is the dash. Alright, so it's all back together. Everything's tightened back in again, and I'll give you a demonstration. We turn the light off here. This is at least just for this part because I haven't done this one. Will be next. So if you just turn the key on, there's your blue, ice blue gauges. So let's see here, better view, and then when I turn the headlights on, the stereo dims, and then these come on. You could turn it on. This is still green, but I don't think I can change that. But the rest of it is all good. Let's see. When you turn it off, when you turn the headlights back off, of course stereo goes brighter, and those still stay lit up. And now it's on to the these. Now I'll show you these right now when you turn it on. Turn the ignition off. So as you can see with these, they're very, very dim. I'll turn them off. And turn them on. I mean, they're dim, brown, dingy. So hopefully that'll all change real soon here. Okay, so day 2. Ran out of time yesterday. So today I'm going to do the dash lights up in the gauge cluster. Not sure if you all know how to take off all the pieces here to get the bezel off, but there's like screws here and here, and then there's, I think, one more behind this, so I gotta take this off too. Pretty sure. We'll see. Let's start out by taking some of these off. Okay, so got the bezel off. There's a plug here for the clock, a bunch of plugs over here for these, you know, wiper and stuff, and hazards, headlights. So there's more plugs on this side. They're all hanging right here. So, and then that slides off. Now onto the actual cluster. Right now, and I remember, and some of you might ask, why aren't you using like a
you know, a little screw gun or power tool to take all these off. This plastic is pretty old and brittle, and I just like to feel it more so I don't break anything. Alright, so now we gotta unplug all of these. See if I can get a better view for all you guys. So now the bezel, or the gauges, are out. Looks like I'll need to clean that really good too. I was going to repaint my needles. They look pretty good. It's this one I need to repaint the needles. Should have done that when I had it off, but I'll do that again. Alright, so now we have to do the bulbs on this, but like I said earlier, I want to make this come on with ignition. So off of this harness, I have to figure out which one is ignition. God, this thing's sticky. All that tape they put on there is sticky. This tape is really deteriorated. Okay, now I got the meter set up and everything. We're gonna try to find where the ignition power is and where the headlight. Ooh, you know what? I'm gonna need to plug in the headlight switch. Think about that. Alright, let's see. Yep, headlights work. Okay, so that covers that. Okay, so that wiring harness is over here for the cluster, and it was just full of this sticky, really sticky tape. Got all over everything. So I got some prep ball, cleaned all the wires down, took that tape off, cleaned all the wires on, cleaned my hands. So now I'm going to go back and find those leads. I know where. So on this black connector, the red with a silver stripe right here, you guys probably can't see it, that is headlight. And then when it comes to ignition power, there's like 4 sources. I think there's 1 on this long connector and like 3 on here. So I'm just going to come back to this area back here a little bit and do my splice back there. So okay, so I ended up going on the white connector that's right near the black one, where I had the red wire. Actually, it's a red with a vertical, horizontal blue stripe and a silver horizontal, I guess vertical and horizontal striping. I ended up going with, on the white connector right next to it, the green with silver, which you'll find when you start metering it out. There's a bunch of choices for ignition power. I just chose that one. I spliced it together, plugged in the cluster, and the dash lights come on with the key now. So I'm going to heat shrink this, and then we'll go on the bench and do the bulbs. Okay, so now we got to replace the bulbs in this. These are all T10s. These are a lot brighter. You can see they're pretty large. You know, these are a lot brighter, and people say sometimes the dash is too bright. So if that's the case and I discover that, what I might end up doing is putting an LED dimmer switch, a couple relays, and make it so that when the headlights turn on, it switches over to the dimmer circuit, and it will dim automatically with the headlights turned on. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know if it'll be too bright at night or not. We'll find out. So if you look on the front, basically have the 4 gauges on the side, and then the speedo and tack in the middle. So the way I understand it, if I get it right, because I don't want to replace all the other ones. I think there's only 5 back here. Should be just these guys, but I'm just going to double check. Well, you know what? It might be this one too, because this one might be that lower gauge. I'll have to figure that out. No, because there's not one over here. There's not one down here. So this must feed light for both these gauges. I don't know what this one is down here. Oh, empty. That's what that is. When you're empty on gas, the one down here is, back here is for empty on gas. The other ones are all warning lights and stuff, so, but we'll test this. Take one out. Again, this has that blue, see that they put like a blue rubber condom over it. They didn't do anything though. I didn't notice them to be blue at all. Just like I showed you in the beginning of the video. So this same thing with these, you can put them in 180 degrees off, and there might be a way to figure that out. I'm not sure what that would be, but I just put them in, test it, and then we'll see. See, they just slide out, little connector, slide back in. You can tell those are going to be bright. And I will put all the part numbers in a description for all of these bulbs if anybody wants to duplicate the color. That's a problem I had too, is I was trying to find people that use the same color somewhere where I could look at it before I put everything in. Alright, let's plug this in now. Let's see what which bulbs are backwards. I mean, I got a 50-50 shot. Odds aren't the best. Well, who knows? Last time I was in Vegas, I did pretty good. Alright, all plugged in. Key on. Okay, so I've got two. This one, which will turn around, put it back in. Yeah, that's lit up. Alright, and I got this one over here that's backwards. So we'll take it off. Alright, so you can probably see what is by the 0 and 20 is really dim, and the 0 here is kind of dim. So I don't think they're too bright though at all, but it is daytime. So I'm going to take a look at these other ones, see if there's bulbs down there that need to be. I don't know what this one is. Let's see. That could be one. It's got a blue on it. And this one. Well, you know what? Maybe they're not just T10s. Maybe they're T5s as well. We'll try it out. Okay, so spent the last, well, I did find out that there's two T5 bulbs at the bottom of the cluster versus the T10s that I put everywhere else, which were these big ones. These are the bulbs. These are the T10s. So this little T5, I could not get it to work. And with meter and testing and everything, I couldn't figure it out. I finally figured out why. So, see how the leads go on each side? And then I looked in here and I was trying to figure out why. And I can't figure out why it wasn't making contact. Even though I bent the prongs and everything, trying to get them to make contact, they weren't. So what I did was, you take these leads and you wrap them on the side and bring them down the side like that, and that way it makes contact. I just put one in and it worked. So I put that one down the side, that one down the side. Now if it's 180 degrees off, then well, you'll have to change it later, but let's see how that works. Okay, so that worked. As you can see now, the cluster's all good and blue and bright. The bottom ones, I'll take this bottom one out. Oops, took the wrong one out. I guess I should watch what I'm doing. Okay, so if you look at the RPM,
and 0 and 1. See how it went out and then back on. That's what those little ones do. They just light up the very bottom of the RPM and the bottom of the speedo. But it makes it look like a complete bright cluster now. So yeah, that's all that is. Now it's just a matter of putting it all back together, and it should work with the ignition. Well, it is right now. Hopefully it will. Ooh, look at that. Ocean Auto. Okay, so now the final. All done with the LED. And let's see here. Give you guys a little demonstration. Turn the key on. Ooh. Look at that. Nice. Nice color. I like the color. I think it'll be good even in driving around at night. We'll see. When you turn the headlights on, you come over here, and the climate control will turn on and the stereo will dim. So, yeah, looks pretty nice. So I learned in the whole process that the climate control does work off of, the lights do work off of the headlight switch. I was incorrect in the very beginning. Must have been some scenario wherever I had it backwards, but it all works really good.